Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed. This is episode 57.
If you are not already subscribed, you can find us at Geeks Unleashed everywhere, including your favorite podcast platform. So remember to leave us a 5-star review because that helps us get found by more listeners. So please rate and review Geeks Unleashed on Apple or Podchaser.
Well, hello, Governor. I'm Mark. I can help it. Sorry. Anyway, I'm joined by my co-host, my barbecue-loving Texan co-host from Texas, obviously. Welcome, Jasmine.
Good grief! What an introduction. Barbecue loving. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm down for a good occasional barbecue. I don't really have barbecue at restaurants. Usually, it's a family kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy my fair share of barbecue. 'Tis the season. It is the summer. It's a perfect summer food.
Whiskey loving.
Yeah, I do love my whiskey. I can't deny that one. Okay, I do love the whiskey.
Switch it up. No, I love I love Jack Daniels. Definitely a JD man myself. Anyway, for this week's review, we're tackling the 9th installment of the epic action franchise Fast and the Furious 9. Vroom, vroom.
Oh, wow. Vroom, vroom. We are, complete with promos and sound effects. We are really hot shit, you guys. Spoiler warning, this is a review show. If you have not seen F9 or the 8 films that came before it, I would pause this and come back later because we're not holding anything back.
We're ready to tackle this franchise and and evaluate every stone and corner of this epic movie.
We're leaving no 10-second car unflipped. We're flipping everything.
And we're going through this movie quarter a mile at a time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway. Welcome to Geeks Unleashed.
Yeah, and if you didn't understand any of those references, you are in the wrong place.
You need to go back. You need to go back 20 years and go and find the Fast and Furious.
Yeah, seriously.
Which actually, that's kind of funny. I'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so welcome to the show. We are normally quite well behaved, and hopefully we'll work.
Are we though? Not always.
No, not always. Actually, some of it you leave edited out.
This is true.
When it gets a bit stupid. So
I try to make us seem as normal as possible, but it doesn't always work. Sometimes that crazy seeps through.
I'd like to add, if I sound a little bit better, it's because I got a better mic.
Yeah, so fancy.
I know. I noticed the last few weeks I've been getting echoier, and I've had to empty the coffers because I was getting annoyed with hearing myself when I listened back. And not that I love hearing my own voice anyway, but I really disliked hearing the echo I could pick up. So yeah, please let me know if I sound better. So hopefully I do. Anyway, before we jump into our rest of the show, I do want to shout out my excitement for a piece of news that came out this week. Ben Reilly's return in September to Amazing Spider-Man. I think we've seen some really positive reaction to the clone taking back the mantle, and this probably doesn't mean anything to you, Jasmine.
Nope.
But as a comic book fan, I'm getting more and more excited by the day that Ben Reilly is coming back. So
listen, I'm happy that you're happy.
Yeah, I would say, look, when I was back in the 90s, one of my friends introduced me to comics. I remember him telling me about. I remember watching the 1994, I think it was 94, Spider-Man the animated series cartoon, and I also always loved Spider-Man, even growing up, even before I even read a comic. And then this guy in my art class tells me that he collects comics and all this, and starts telling me about the clone saga and how it turns out Peter Parker's the clone, and all these years, all the Peter Parker we know. And then this other guy, Ben Reilly's like the real Spider-Man. Anyway, so I ended up going to this. That's how I ended up going to a comic shop, because I was like, what the hell? And so my first ever Spider-Man was Ben Reilly, who took over the mantle as Spider-Man. Anyway, it all turned out as misdirection, and Ben Reilly was actually the clone, and Peter was the real
dun, dun, dun.
And but it went on for way too long, and Clone Saga was heavily criticized, but I loved all of it. I didn't read every issue, but I read most of that run. And they killed Ben off eventually, brought him back recently, and because obviously it's comics, and no one's dead, even if there is a dead body, even if it has been decapitated, pretty much. you can come back in comics, that doesn't matter. But yeah, they brought him back recently. But now that he's actually going to be taking over the mantle of Spider-Man, I'm well chuffed. And there was a comment on our Instagram post actually going, I've been looking for a jumping on point. This will be a jumping on point for people. There's always jumping on points here and there, but no, I'm just really excited. So
when does this kick off to jump into it?
It's in September.
September. All right.
Yeah, not far to go. So, and it's going out 3 times a month though. So be prepared to drop your Spider-Man Wonga. Watch about.
Yeah, that's seriously. 3 times a month. Damn, that's.
I'm sure that it's not going to be. I'm assuming that if it's 3 times a month, it's probably going to be like a $3 book or something like that. I'm sure it's not going to be like a lot. Like I'm sure they're not going to drop a $4 or $5 book 3 times a month. Although it's only DC.
I hardly ever see them do anything under $3.99. So.
Oh yeah, well maybe okay. So for me, sorry, it'd be like £3. So yeah, maybe it's $3.99 for you, so £3 for me. But equally, DC are the only ones dropping the real expensive books.
Yeah, the $8 and $9 books.
Oh yeah, I know. I think we've both agreed, and we've kind of like we're not going to spoil too much. We've got a bit of a lineup for you. We've written out probably I would say 80% lineup till January with what we're going to get planned, and you won't be hearing or seeing us review single issues anymore. Spoiler there for you. We're going to be any reviews for comics now will be graphic novels, and
we want just a little bit more content to sink our teeth into. That's how teeth really teeth more content to sink our teeth into. Good grief. And I haven't even been drinking today.
Maybe you've been drinking so much you forgot you've been drinking.
No. I this whole week, man, haven't had a drink all week.
You know, I've had a couple of ciders earlier, but it was quite a few hours ago. So
cider. Maybe I'll buy some tomorrow.
Although ciders to me are just like drinking soft drinks. Like they're just nice drinks, but they don't.
Well, it's just like a regular beer here, not like fancy beer, because it's only 3.5 or 4% alcohol. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What I mean is, it's so light.
Yeah.
You know, like it probably would take me drinking around 20 of them to actually feel something. So, yeah.
Although we don't encourage that.
Oh, well, I have never done it, but anyway. So versus versus
this week. Mark yelled at me this week, guys. I just want y'all to know that Mark yelled at me.
Before we say what it was, Skeletor versus Shredder. So that's the 80s cartoon Skeletor versus the 80s cartoon Shredder. Not the movie ones.
Yeah.
If we ever do those, there'll be a separate one. But this is the cartoon Shredder and Skeletor.
Well, I picked one and then I changed my mind. And Mark was like, "You can't change your mind." Damn it.
No take backs. So okay, let's ignore all that. Let's start fresh. Who wins?
I'm gonna stick with my changed answer. I'm gonna go with Shredder.
Do you know what I was thinking about this, and I probably would go with Shredder. So,
but that's not what the people said.
No. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Skeletor won. The percentages, it was about 80-20 Skeletor.
Yeah.
Most of the comments were Skeletor.
Yeah.
But I think Shredder. So I don't get me wrong, they're both fairly lame villains.
Excuse you, Shredder is actually very scary.
But I think between the two of them, I think Shredder would have the advantage.
I think Shredder is just a little bit more conniving than Skeletor. Skeletor is kind of obvious in his things, and Shredder is a little more clandestine.
And I think if it really came down to it, Shredder's got Krang, who's got a Technodrome. I mean, Skeletor's got what?
He's got magic.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that Technodrome will be running over him.
But anyway, it's a tough one. This was a good battle, though. It struck up a lot of conversation in the comments.
But I think Shredder, though, really, with hopefully his martial arts skills, could take Skeletor down. I think, cartoon wise, it's hard to say. Live action wise, no contest. Shredder beats the crap out of Skeletor live action. You haven't seen the movie. I would probably go with live action being Skeletor.
No.
we'll come back to this. Once you've seen the movie, which
Okay. We'll see.
will be happening.
Yeah.
Right. Let's flip this over to our news. So in our weekly news, we grab a couple of things that we like to chat about. Like, we don't obviously review the entire week, but we grab a couple of things that are like interesting topics. And for the first one, I just couldn't believe the headline. So a former Microsoft employee has stolen over 10 million US dollars in Xbox gift cards. So
that's
extreme. I'm going to struggle with his name. Volodymyr something.
Volodymyr Kvashik.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a former software engineer at Microsoft. He initially was hired in 2016. He was testing their e-commerce infrastructure, and part of his duties included making purchases using fake accounts to see if there was bugs and glitches and stuff like that. And as part of that, he discovered one, which basically he was hired to do a job, found a glitch,
and then didn't tell
anybody.
And
then decided not to tell Microsoft about it. I mean, you're hired to do a job, you find the problem,
right,
and then think, you know what, I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna see what I can do with this.
Yeah, and he did see what he could do with it.
Oh,
so man. he used that money to sell. He basically went and sold the gift cards online at discounted rates, and obviously he's making some good money and putting the money into Bitcoin, and then he kind of was drawing the money down from Bitcoin, but he decided to draw down, I think it was like 2.5 million. And then when he failed his fake tax returns, he said it was like some sort of inheritance or something like that. That clearly raised some flags with your IRS, and so
I don't know why people continue to underestimate the IRS, because as much as the FBI tried to get Al Capone, it was his taxes that brought him down. So don't fuck with the IRS, man.
No government wants to lose out on their tax. So anyway, he was fired from Microsoft in 2018. And then in February 2020, he was convicted of 18 federal felonies, faces deportation back to the Ukraine, and is going to have to pay 8.3 million US dollars in damages.
That's a ridiculous amount of money. Like,
I mean, I don't think they're going to see that money, are they? And then he's currently in prison, and he's slated to be released in March 2027. And I'm assuming in 2027 he'll probably go back to the Ukraine. When I read this article, there's quite a few things here jumped out at me. So when I read this news online, well, no, yeah, there was loads of things. I wondered how he got caught, because they didn't talk about that. So I wonder if he got caught because of, like you say, the tax. So I wonder if it was the tax that kind of made the IRS jump up and think, what's going on here?
No. Microsoft caught him. Microsoft caught him and turned him in.
So I didn't see any of that. Like, it wasn't very clear about whether it was Microsoft or the government. So, so Microsoft actually did catch it.
Yeah, but it took them a while.
So it wasn't very clear to me, like whether it was the IRS or whether.
Well, but he got caught because some of those fake accounts that he was using, he had been using his colleagues' information, so some of their like email addresses and names and stuff.
Oh, so they
and because he started using that, they followed that paper trail, and they were able to get to them that way. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the fact the IRS was aware of it, like maybe they were picking it up at the same time as Microsoft. So I think the trouble is, do you know what it is? I say this a lot. People do a crime, and they do it once, and they probably could get away with it. Like, and probably no one would ever find out.
Right.
But the trouble with greed is people always want more.
Yes.
And he probably I don't know what his first transaction was, $10,000 or something like that. And I mean, it could have been $1,000, who knows? But he probably did something really small to start with, and then he probably thought, whoa. Start rubbing those hands together, and then he suddenly ends up with 10 million. He obviously didn't end up with 10 million overnight, like. But he does it over a staggered period, and obviously he made money off of it. Now, and who knows?
And the thing is, like you said, it was greed, because I know for a fact Microsoft employees get amazing discounts on Microsoft products So it's not that you were trying to do like have like personal gain, like you were literally trying to profit off of this, and that was the problem with it. I'm sure if he had stolen some stuff and gotten caught, which again, like you don't need to. I promise you that Microsoft discount is hella badass.
Also, he was an engineer. He would have been on good money.
Yeah,
Like
right.
he was an e-commerce infrastructure engineer. Like, and
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people
I
go to
mean, they
uni and stuff.
literally imported him from the Ukraine. So
Yeah,
come on, man. Come on, man.
I mean, to get into
$10
America
million
anyway,
is excessive.
he must have been. I've got his salary must have been between 100 to 200 grand. It's got to have been like to that,
easy.
like you say, imported from Ukraine,
Easy.
doing that kind of job. He must have been extremely intelligent. He didn't need to steal 10 million. That was pure greed.
Right.
Well, again, because I know he was dabbling in Bitcoin. I wonder if they found everything. So
hard to say.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's why they haven't seized his accounts, because they can't get into the Bitcoin accounts. But I'm sure if he had any kind of American bank account, they would have seized his bank account, frozen his assets.
That's the only trouble with Bitcoin, and I can't see that ever changing.
Trouble? I'm not so sure it's trouble.
Well, trouble is in trouble, like as in the law enforcement can't get it, like when they need to. That's the only trouble with Bitcoin, is in like if he's committed a crime, people can't get to that. So I've never used Bitcoin. I've got, in honesty, not particularly sure.
I don't make enough money to use Bitcoin yet, so that is not a thing that is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I've met people that said they've bought Bitcoin or whatever, but I'll be honest with you, it's something I don't understand that I don't want to stick money into. So, but anyway, so I thought to myself when I read it, it was just so weird, the whole situation, how it went on for so long and how he got away with it. But it definitely was greed.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he started, like you say, dabbling in his friends' accounts and things like that.
Right.
Sounded to me like he was getting almost like it almost feels like a bug. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that episode of Friends where Monica got addicted to playing the stock market. I don't know whether it was just an addiction here, like he just couldn't help but constantly try and fiddle the system, like whether it was some sort of bug had got him and he was just so hungry for more. So
I think it puts you on a power trip, because you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and so far you've gotten away with it and you make a profit off of it. Like, yeah, it's like a giant ego trip.
Yeah.
So enjoy paying that $8.3 million back, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how they'll make him give that back, but he definitely won't be going back to America after he goes back to the Ukraine. So
not at all. All right, so moving right along, piece of exciting news. I am super stoked about this. Riddick 4, the script is complete. The original director, David Towie, is back. While doing press for F9, Vin Diesel casually dropped like, oh yeah, by the way, the Riddick 4 script is done. I have read it. I am enjoying it. And hopefully we will be able to start filming in Australia. No date whatsoever. None. So who knows if that's going to be anytime soon, in the next couple of years or so. The last Riddick film we got was just titled Riddick. It was the third of the franchise. Got back to the basics. 2 was a little convoluted. 3 gets back to the basics. 3 is, oh man, I love 3. Like, I still watch it every time it comes on TV, even though that movie was from 2013. It has aged very well.
I love the first one. Pitch Black was really good.
Yeah,
the second one was just too
much.
Do you know, it almost was like the second one. Well, I was gonna say, it's almost like the second one was written and then they go, right, what can we do? Okay, let's make it a Pitch Black film. Like, it just didn't feel like, they obviously altered it a little bit to fit in there, but
but there's no reason to have the necromancers. Like, that was just unnecessary. That entire plot line with the necromancers was completely unnecessary. So hopefully 4 gets back to basics. It's titled Riddick 4 Furya, and for those who are fans, Furya is the planet that Riddick is originally from, although no one can seem to find Furya anymore. So I'm actually super intrigued, and I hope we do finally get to Furya and kind of hopefully he's not the last of his kind, like we have been led to believe.
Oh, I don't think that. He's clearly not going to be the last of his kind because it
No.
would be a very boring film.
Also, they are thinking that there could also be a potential next game in the Riddick franchise, the first one, which I've never gotten past like the first 15 minutes of that game, but Escape from Butcher Bay was the first Riddick video game that they released. There was another one. Oh, I can't remember.
Why have you not
the
got
name of that
past the
one.
first 15 minutes?
Because it was really hard.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's really scary.
No. It was really hard because like the first one, obviously Escape from Butcher Bay. So Butcher Bay is supposedly one of the supermax prisons in the galaxy. So he's basically breaking out of prison in the game, and I just could not like get my bearings. Anyway, so hey, Riddick 4, Furya. I am super excited. I honestly, this Pitch Black and Fast and Furious came out at the same time, and it's really kind of hard for me to decide which franchise I like better because I love them both so much. So I'm super stoked.
I love Riddick too. Do you know when I Pitch Black, I remember picking the DVD up, and it was this is probably how old I am. I just got my first like DVD player, and for years I had like VHS everywhere.
Yeah,
and I bought myself a DVD player, and I was like, oh, I have like thousands of VHS, which I now need to get rid of.
Yeah,
and I need some DVDs, and I remember going into a shop just thinking, okay, I'll grab a couple of DVDs, whatever. I remember like some of the ones I got was like the Scream box set, and then I remember seeing Pitch Black, and I literally had no idea what it was, but I thought this is cool. Like I just bought it, when I watched it, I was like, wow, this is actually really good.
Yeah,
and but you could see it's like pretty much majority of it was Australian cast, other than
I didn't know that at the time.
So, okay. Well, some of them I knew from Australian. I think there's a girl in it. I can't remember her name.
Cara Black. She's in a ton of stuff.
No, it was it's gonna annoy me now. Like no, there was two actresses in it. That are Australian.
Radha Mitchell.
Yeah, Neighbours. Yeah, that's where I knew her from. And then there was I'm sure there was a couple of other people as well. But there was Americans in there, but there was like quite a few sort of Australians in there, and it felt like it definitely had this whole Australian vibe about it, other than Vin Diesel. And but anyway, I loved it. So, and I've always loved the franchise. I do think 2 was a bit weird. So, but I'm really looking forward to number 4. So I didn't, you know, I enjoyed number 2, but going from number 1 to number 2 was there was such a big gap. Like there was,
but they had that animated one that came in between, which was actually pretty good.
Oh, actually, I've never watched that. Like, I've never.
Okay. So the DVD that I have, it's like a box set DVD of the first film, that animated film, and then the second film, and then I have the third film on Blu-ray. So, you got to watch it. It's only like 30 minutes long. You got to watch it. It's really good because it fills in the gap between what happens when the 3 of them get off of that planet, and then how they wind up with the necromancers in the first place.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. No, when I said big jump, I meant in terms of just the feel. Obviously, number 1 is a real grounded movie, like real sort of back to basics, and number 2 is just so CGI heavy and crazy and just
but the story is too big and too too much. Like the first film is literally like, we're stuck on a planet, we crash landed, oh shit, there's aliens, like what do we do? Like it's very simple, very basic. And then the second film is just like, and you have this cast that's phenomenal. You got like Judi Dench and Tandy Newton and Carl Urban, and it's like, it's great. I love all of y'all, but this was completely unnecessary.
They should have that kind of almost is like a 4th or 5th movie, you know, in terms of scale.
Yeah.
Well, you know, if you look at Fast and Furious, like I know we're going to talk about in a minute, but from where it started to where it is now,
completely
over the 9 years, it's evolved. It went from Pitch Black to the second film, and it
went from Pitch Black to Mission Impossible. Like that's the big jump that we've had in the Fast franchise. Yeah.
But no, anyway, I'm excited. Hopefully, get number 4 whenever that comes out. I know they've been talking about it for so long.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Batwoman. Batwoman is a show that Jasmine and I reviewed season 1 in December last year. We did review the first couple of episodes in earlier this year. I've fallen behind on it. I do intend to go back because I'm kind of keen to see Luke Fox take on the Batwing mantle, and I kind of want to catch up on some of the other things. Hearing that Kate Kane's been recast and coming back and stuff like that. I'm excited by this news though, that Renee Montoya is going to be coming into season 3. Now there's no news on who they're looking for or anything like that. They put out a little bit of a synopsis on what they're looking for in terms of race and age, sort of someone mid-30s, potential Latinx or Afro-Latinx. And they have said, though, that this version will be in charge of in speech marks, freak division at the mayor's office. After leaving the GCPD, they have mentioned that she's going to be part of the LGBTQ plus community. And what they've said here is that she is on a personal and enigmatic mission to clean up Gotham streets the right way by any means necessary. Now,
I don't even know how you could put those two things in the same sentence. How can you do it the right way by any means necessary?
Yeah, well, you know what it is, though. They start off doing it the right means possible.
Yeah,
and then by the end of the season, when the shit's it's always the same, though, isn't it? They come in, they're anti the vigilantes, they want to do it by the book, by the law, and then by the end of the season, they're also bloody wearing capes and masks, or where it is. So, for those who don't know, that Renee Montoya also is the Question in the comics, so we're getting more superheroes as well from the comics. And is Batwoman just really becoming the new Gotham? That's what I want to know. So
hopefully, but better than Gotham, because God.
We'll see. I gave up with Gotham after a while. Do
you
know what? It's a shame. It could have been so good. It could have been.
It could have if they stopped focusing on Bruce Wayne. Like, if you had let that go and actually focused on Jim Gordon, I think we could have had a much better series.
I think, I think if they'd have actually just kept this as what it was meant to be, a prequel for Jim Gordon.
Exactly.
I was okay with like the first episode having Bruce's parents get killed.
Right.
And even potentially having the first season be like solve the murder.
Well, I think you have to have that as a hook.
But then he needed to then fade into the background and become more of a reoccurring. I think they made a rod for their own back by keeping him as a reoccurring character. Yes. That was just something they shouldn't have done. Like, they just shouldn't have done it. They should have faded him out. I would have been fine with maybe the odd episode or something like that. But anyway, we're not talking about Gotham, but they really balls that one up. Like, sorry, they really did. We'll be back in a moment.
Let's get nerdy, everybody. I'm Chris.
And I'm Dave, and together we are the Nerd Byword, your podcast guide through the nerd multiverse.
Our podcast takes deep dives into all sorts of nerdy content. We talk about comic books, video games, movies, TV, and pop culture.
Want to know about the latest nerdy news? We've got you covered.
Want to get recommendations about new or obscure media that will fill your nerdy heart with happiness? You've come to the right place.
And in our Nerd Big Talk segment, we go deep as we take on some of the biggest questions in nerddom. All that and exclusive interviews with heavy hitters in the nerd world.
Join us on the Nerd Byword wherever you get your podcasts and nerdbyword.com. Stay well and stay nerdy.
And we're back. So just a little shout out to our friends in our community. So it's always good to support our other podcasters and YouTubers.
That's right.
So this week's review, we are going to be focusing on Fast 9. So when I say that, it's actually got 3 names: F9, F9, the Fast Saga, and Fast and Furious 9.
Take your pick.
Take your pick, basically. Like, I actually said to someone, "Do you want to go see Fast 9?" And they went, "What?" so I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Fast and Furious 9." They went, "Oh, yeah." So,
that film. Yeah.
It's directed by Justin Lin. Writers are Daniel Casey, Justin Lin, Alfredo Botelho, and it was released in June 2021. However, this was originally going to be released in April 2020, and like the rest of all the movies that are coming, like the rest of the movies that are due to come out this year, everything got pushed back from the chaos that happened last year. I think 2020 and probably parts of this year will be the years that no one talks about. So going forward, Be like the year that no one, the time forgot.
Yeah.
Anyway, the cast is way long, so I'm going to say some of them and then not all of them. So Vin Diesel is in it. As Dominic Toretto. Vinny Bennett plays young Dominic.
Who is a young up-and-coming Kiwi actor. So holla at the Kiwis. I love it.
I didn't know
One
him.
of two Kiwis in this film, mind you.
Michelle Rodriguez is Letty Ortiz, and who doesn't know Michelle Rodriguez? Tyrese Gibson is playing the Joker of the pack, Roman Pierce. Ludacris is Tej Parker. John Cena is making his entrance to the Fast and Furious franchise as Jacob with a K. Jacob Toretto. I've no idea why they put K in there.
Yeah.
So, Finn Cole from Peaky Blinders is playing young Jacob.
I knew I recognized him from somewhere.
Do you know what? It was bugging me the whole film. Like, honestly, I was like, who is he? It's really annoying me. And I can't get my phone out to look it up. And then the moment I got out, I looked at it, I was like, oh, Peaky Blinders. Anyway, Natalie
Emmanuel.
Yeah. I so can't read. Anyway, it's Ramsey. Honestly, I love Ramsey.
Me too.
Georgia, and she, if you didn't know, English actress. Originally, I didn't see her in it. English soap Hollyoaks, and then she was in Game of Thrones for a big chunk, supporting our Dragon Queen. And then there's quite a few other people in here. Helen Mirren makes an appearance. Kurt Russell has a couple of little screenshots.
Sun Kang is back.
Yeah, Charlize Theron has got a little bit in here as Cypher. Lucas Black, Don Omar, Shia Wingham all reprise their roles from Tokyo Drift, and so many people. Gal Gadot has got some archive footage, and yeah, just yeah, like it's amazing. So, but yeah, like you say though, out of all of those people, Han coming back, I mean, it's unfortunate that they ruined it in the trailer, but
oh yeah.
I honestly think that's something that they should have just not let anyone know. If I'd have been watching that,
I think if this movie had come out in April of 2020, like it was supposed to, they could have kept that a secret. I don't see how they could have kept that secret a year and a half after the film was originally supposed to be released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just a quick summary of the movie. So the movie brings us back to Dom, who's retired, is living with his child and also Letty as well, and they're all living a peaceful little life in the middle of nowhere, completely off the beaten path, and no phones, no internet, etc. However, Roman and Tej rock up as they do with a screen. Ramsey, sorry, but with a screen that shows a little snippet of Mr. Nobody. The planes crashed, etc. Cypher's been pulled off the plane. Plane's in the middle of nowhere, trying to pull them back in. Dom doesn't want to go, but they end up going. Anyway, then what happens is this leads to them wanting to track down two halves of a machine called Ares, which basically can hack into any computer-controlled weapon system across the world. This whole film, basically, that's just sort of the starting point. The whole film then is kind of an international search and rescue for finding different bits and bobs. It all ends in a large-scale fight to save the world. Throughout the movie, we're also introduced to Dom's brother, Jacob with a K, who will be known as that forever. And and the majority of the movie, he's a villain. We'll talk about that in a bit. The movie also spends quite a lot of time flashing back to the past to show Dom and Jacob, and unfortunately not Mia, which I was a bit disappointed about.
Yeah.
I think that was a bad move on their part. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a bit. But it shows a young Dom and a young Jacob and their father sort of following his death, and kind of their relationship and how it soured. And that's why it kind of leads to the fact that we've never heard of Jacob with a K before. And should I stop doing it?
If it makes you happy.
John Cena. Honestly, that man. I've got a lot of thoughts on John Cena. So.
Yeah, I got notes, man. I got notes.
So anyway, that's my summary of F9. We're done. Let's go. Anyway, well, obviously that was a joke. Right. What I want to start with just a short. What's your thoughts? Just a summary. What's your thoughts on this movie? You walked out. What was your initial like gut thought on this movie?
So my initial thought was 20 years of this franchise, and this is literally the first time we're hearing of a brother. Like there was no other way for you to work a character like Cena into this film other than retconning history and adding in a phantom sibling. That's my beef. Now, granted, in a film where two non-astronauts go into orbit, my beef is John Cena playing Vin Diesel's brother. That's like, and it's odd because like at one point, like they try to kind of play it off like, oh, we all knew, yada yada yada. But like at one point, Charlize Theron is like, well, we always knew that the Toretto bloodline was mixed, but I didn't know it had a Nordic strain. And I was like, I'm sorry, what now? Like, is this your way of saying that like he's the white brother? Like, I'm very confused by this.
I was confused by that comment. Yeah, like that was a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean they tried to work it in some kind of way, like, but it would have made a lot more sense if you're going for like the big meathead look. Like you could have picked someone like Dave Bautista. Like I could believe that Dave Bautista and Vin Diesel are brothers, but like I ain't believing John Cena and Vin Diesel are brothers. So that's really my biggest summary there. It's like that's weird, but okay.
But
I can put that aside.
Like, did you enjoy it though when you walked out? Do you think I enjoyed that movie?
Of course I did. I would not have spent 20 years watching this franchise if I were expecting myself to walk out and be like, well, that sucked.
No, do you know?
Hell I enjoyed it.
No, I walked out and I thought I really loved this film. Like I loved every moment of this film, and I'll talk about my viewing experience in a minute. But I thought I walked out there like kind of pumped. I was like, yes, cinema is back. Like, and
well, I didn't go that far.
No, but like it was a big blockbuster movie. Big blockbuster movie should be watched on the big screen. I walked out there I thought to myself, this is like when Jasmine loved Mortal Kombat and I thought it was shit. Like I walked out of there thinking, I don't care if people think this movie is shit. And I thought this was a good film. I don't care what people say. And don't get me wrong, this is not an Oscar movie. Like this is not this is not a dramatization of
I tell you what though, when this movie comes out on DVD or Blu-ray, I'm gonna buy it so that I can watch it whenever the hell I want to watch it. That's this kind of movie.
Do you know what? Like, it's got me now wanting to like sit down and just do all of them, like just start to finish, and that'd be a long week.
If you want to make that happen, I'm fine with it. We can find room in the schedule because I would be totally down for that.
Should we just change the name to Geeks Unleashed to Fast Unleashed or something like that?
Yes.
Furious Unleashed. I don't know. Or Furious Geeks. There you go.
Yeah.
We'll just become down. Furious Geeks for 10 episodes.
I'm fine with it. So. I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, that's it. We're the Fast and Furious official podcast. But no, so I walked out there. I was like, this is a good film. And anyway, but in regards to sort of my viewing experience and where I watched it and stuff like that, actually, I'd just hear from you first. Like, where did you go and see it?
Okay, so I got a story for this one. So this is my first trip back to the movie theater since COVID. The last movie I saw before COVID hit was the My Hero Academia movie, Two Heroes, in that 4K thing with the seats that move and vibrate and all that stuff. So this is the first time I've been in a theater since February of 2020. I originally had tickets for one night and I couldn't make it because I had a delivery at my apartment that I had to be here for. So I switched my ticket. I had a work appointment at 2:30. I hope my boss is not listening. I had a work appointment at 2:30. And after my work appointment, I was like, oh, well, I'm not going back to the office today. So I found a 3:15 showing. And so like I went to see Fast 9 at 3:15 in the afternoon. I get into the theater I am the only person there. And then after 3 trailers have played, this old woman walks in. And when I say old woman, she had to have been over 90. She had a nurse helper. She was walking with a cane. She was moving very, very gingerly. And when she walked in, I started to question. I was like, am I in the right theater? Because I cannot imagine this woman wanting to see Fast 9. So like I try to look at my ticket. Obviously, I can't see anything because it's dark. So I literally get up out of my seat. I go back outside of the theater and I check the little marquee above the theater auditorium. But they have stopped putting the movie names on the marquee. So then I go back through my purse and I'm looking at my ticket and I'm looking at my receipt. And yeah, I was like, okay, it says Fast 9, 3:15. Like, okay. And so like when I went back in and sat down, finally after like 25 minutes of trailers, the the movie comes on. I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. But since it was just me and the very quiet, very old woman, I had my phone out, so I was taking notes the whole time for this podcast. But yeah, it was again middle of the afternoon. And because it was the middle of the afternoon, it was one of those really small screens, so it's still a movie theater experience, but like not like the big IMAX screen experience. So I
went and watched it. I think it was it was a View Cinema, and I went with a friend of mine, and I texted him saying, "Do you want to go see F9?" He's like, "What's F9?" I was like, "Fast and Furious 9." Oh, okay, yeah, cool, yeah. Like we arranged a date and time. We both met there. We met at View in Oxfordshire because it was in the middle of where we both live. Sorry, in Oxford, because it's the middle of where we both live. And so we had to wear the masks on the way in, but in the actual cinema thing, nobody was wearing masks. It was kind of cool because everyone was eating, drinking anyway. Like, so I bought loads of popcorn.
I literally wore my mask for 3 hours.
Oh no, I ate and drank. So food can't go through that mask. So, but it wasn't that packed. There was a few people in it. Annoyingly, there was about 6 kids sitting behind me that thought it was appropriate to talk the whole way through the film and laugh and giggle.
I hate people like that at the movie theater.
I know. One person did say to me at one point, "Can you just be quiet?" But they just laughed, and I was like, there's no point saying things to people that just talk through the whole film. Like, they clearly don't care. So that was probably my actual biggest negative about my viewing experience, was just what I'm enjoying this movie. I'm sitting there, pay for my ticket. I actually paid £2 more so I could sit in the VIP seats. Like, so, I wanted a nice, comfortable seat with some nice leg room. It's my first time back. Last film I saw was in February 2020. I saw 1917, the World War I movie, which was just amazing. However, obviously 15 months have gone past. First time back at the movie theater, and I'm like, you've got these idiots behind me. That was what was really frustrating.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I haven't really got any amazing stories about it, but it was just really good to get back out again. I was actually really pleased to just get out, see a film on the big screen, and this is a film I actually think I think it was kind of a bit like the Mortal Kombat thing. I think if I'd have seen Mortal Kombat on the big screen, I probably would have loved it more than I did watching it on the TV.
Yeah.
Because films like that need to be seen on a big screen. And I think if we were doing this podcast and COVID had never happened, I would have said, right, I'll go to the cinema and watch Mortal Kombat. And I probably would have come into the podcast with a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
I think films like that need to be seen on the big screen. I think I've always thought this: comedies, watch them at home, watch them with friends, watch them in a group of people. You can have a couple of beers and have a bit of a laugh. But big action films should always be on the big screen.
That's what they're designed for.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I mean, I know it's not the cinema's fault, but
right.
But they've denied me my ability to watch all these action films for the last 15 months. So I'm glad the cinema is back. So yeah, I enjoyed going out and I enjoyed watching on the big screen. So it was good. It was good to see it, and I think it was really nice to see it like that. So
yeah.
So as we get into the movie now, so I wanted to hear from you. Did you have a favorite character or actor?
Letty has always been my favorite. Always and forever. Letty. Yeah. And Letty's always been my favorite because so this movie came out during my formative years. I was 17 when the first Fast and Furious film came out. So I immediately fell in love with Letty because she was not the typical arm candy girl that you
Mm.
see in these kinds of films. She was a tomboy, but she knew cars and she wasn't afraid to get dirty. She fought a lot. But she still got like the hot guy, like it was like this never happens. You never see the tomboy with the main character. So I plus like her interests aligned with mine. Like when I was 17, I've was a gearhead when I was a kid. I grew up as a child of the car industry. So by the time like I learned to drive on a convertible canary yellow Mustang when I was 12 years old. So I have been into cars for a very, very long time. So like to see a franchise that kind of it had people of color, so people that kind of look like me, people that didn't conform to the norms like me, driving fast cars and doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing. I'm not going to admit to doing that or not. But it just, I don't know. I've always loved Letty's character, and I think that was one of my biggest beefs with the franchise, like in the middle around the fourth film, when it was kind of like, are they going to bring Michelle back? Is she coming? Like, what's going to happen? And I remember reading some stuff with like Michelle Rodriguez where she was like, I cannot believe that I fell for it. I cannot believe that this franchise that, we've been a part of for so long, and they just kind of cut me out. And she was like, and I just kept asking Vin, and she was like, he assured me, don't worry, I got you. Like you're coming back. It's don't look at it as a bad thing. So yeah, when they finally brought Letty back, I was all in from that point on. Because 2, I didn't really love 2. I watched 2. 3, I have not seen 3 because, none of those people are regulars. So 4 was the film that brought me back into the franchise.
That's not true.
Well, they've been in the last 2. So
Han was in like 75% of them, and then Lucas Mack has been in 3 of them if you count Tokyo Drift, which they do. They do count Tokyo Drift,
yeah.
And you should go and watch Tokyo Drift. It's not the best of the movies, but I suppose if we're going to do a Fast and Furious marathon,
if we do a marathon, I'll watch it. If we're not doing a marathon, fuck it, I'm not watching it. So yeah, 4 was the film that brought me back to the franchise, because that was the film where everybody came back. So yeah, but always and forever, Letty is my favorite character.
Do you know what, Michelle Rodriguez? Like you say, I love Michelle Rodriguez. She was one of the characters I wrote down. I'll talk about someone else in a minute, because I actually wrote down 3 characters. I was like, I'm struggling with a favorite character here. So, but do you know, I actually love Michelle Rodriguez from when she spent time in Lost. When she came in the second season, and I remember at the time, I think it was something, I might be paraphrasing this a little bit, but her agent and they wanted to get her into something else, because the trouble she was getting was constantly getting stuck as like the action girl.
Yes.
And however, she was very actiony in Lost. I didn't find that she was too far from what she was being cast in big films. So although it being in Lost, you did have a chance to sort of flesh out a character a little bit more, as you do on TV, because you're there week in, week out.
Yeah.
But I love Letty and even Michelle Rodriguez, and I have to say, like, I think Letty definitely is the heart and soul of the team. I know they put a lot behind Dom, but I think it was very evident in this film actually how much of a lead or role Letty has. So for me, I did struggle with favorites here, so I actually did put down Jordana Brewster as Mia, and even Natalie Emmanuel as Ramsey as well. I honestly, those 3 women for me were just so good in this film, and I thought having Mia back was just amazing. Look, I understand why they wrote Mia out.
Yeah,
but I would imagine Jordana Brewster probably wasn't happy to be written out of a big blockbuster action franchise and lose the wonga that came with it. She probably did think, look, I've got to take it on the chin, because her character and Brian rode off into the sunset. I did think this was a good way of bringing her back because of the brother. And they obviously don't bring her in initially. They bring her in sort of, I don't know, 45 minutes later or whatever it is, and into the movie, because obviously again, Letty brings her in and says, we can't leave her out. It's her brother too.
Yeah.
So, but I know I love them all. And I honestly thought that Ramsey's so cool. Like, it's just, I love the fact that she's not really a street racer. She is the IT woman. She's like,
okay,
the man
when
in the
she
chair,
said
so to
that she
speak.
could not drive,
Oh, yeah,
I
I know,
lost my shit. Like, I was like, are
Wow.
you kidding me? And she's like, well, I have no reason to drive in London. I'm like, oh my
But
God,
that's
you
true,
cannot
though.
drive a car? Okay,
Well, that's true though.
my
Like,
beef with that, not only did she say, I can't drive, but then she gets behind the wheel of a truck, or as you say, a lorry, which is a manual shifting
lorry.
vehicle. Like, you mean to tell me you can't drive, but magically you get behind the wheel of a freaking stick shift and you know how to drive a damn stick shift? Now, I've been driving since I was 12 and I cannot drive a stick shift.
Yeah, but that's all we drive over here is stick. Like, we don't.
You guys don't have automatics at all?
I drove an automatic once. I had no idea what I was doing.
There's nothing to do. You put it in gear once and then you go.
Oh, it was so weird. Honestly, I didn't like it. No, it's all we drive. It's all we drive over here is stick. I couldn't imagine driving anything other than stick.
That killed me. Like, how, if you don't know how to drive, though, how do you even understand the mechanics of the clutch and the shift and all of that at the same time? Like, that made no sense to me.
I think it's definitely harder to drive stick over automatic. Like the automatic, I drove automatic once. I basically had to move a friend's car at work, and he gave me his keys, and I got in the car. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I was like, okay. Like, it was so weird. I really had to drive his car slow because I had literally no idea what I was doing. No, I even thought if I ever moved to America or lived in America, I'd have to find a car with a stick.
I mean, they sell them.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't drive an automatic. Like, but also I love flicking gears. I love jumping up gears. Like, you get a lot more power with the gears. Oh, yeah, I couldn't imagine driving an automatic. It'd be so weird, an alien. So, and sometimes, do you know what, actually? When I left the cinema, like when I was like flicking gears and because I had to get on the motorway, or as you call the highway, like I had to get on there after I left the movie cinema, the movie theater, and I had to get on there to go home, and I was like quick flipping gears, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 5, like, and I'm doing like 70 on the motorway, and I was like, yeah, you do feel like a racer. Like, you just come out of a sort of racing car movie film, and you're like straight away like in your car flipping gears. And like, I have to say, I do love the whole thing, like flipping gears and going up the gear level and all that, and just going up faster. So for me, stick is best. Actually, to come to a point, Ramsey's point about I don't need to drive in London. I've got loads of friends that live in London that don't drive, or
I imagine it's like living in New York City. Like, I would never drive if I lived in New York City. There's no point.
No. Well, when I used to live in London, I didn't drive for ages. Like, I learned quite late, like mid-20s or something like that.
Yeah.
And the only reason I did that because I was like, okay, I live in London, public transport's great, bus comes every 5 minutes, whatever. But I'm like, look, I can't for the rest of my life. Am I going to live in London? Probably not. Like, am I going to live a bit further out? Probably. And also, like, you're so restricted on jobs because, that actually the higher you go up or the higher you want to progress, you're always going to need a car. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to learn to drive. So with Ramsey, she probably did know how to drive. What I think she meant was,
she just
I can't drive. I can't drive as well as you lot drive.
Yeah.
And,
okay, maybe.
Yeah. Favorite character for me, I think if I was to really come down to it, was gotta be Ramsey. Really, I thought she was brilliant. She was funny and just really lighthearted, and yeah, I just think she's great. And I think it's good that I felt like women in general in this film got a lot more screen time and were a lot more vital to the plot than I think previous movies. That's why I think I wrote down 3 women as favorite characters. Like, it was great to see them actually not needing men in their scenes or relying on men. And when Dom got in the car next to her, I thought, please don't let him get the wheel. And he didn't. He sat there watching her, which I thought was good. Yeah. And I think had this have been in the first 4 movies, Dom would have taken over. But he's now a lot more, as the character, relying on his team. Yeah. So, which is maybe an evolution of his character too. So, who's your least favorite character in this film?
Oh, well, my least favorite character was the typical like throwaway bad guy, Otto, played by Tu Ørsted Rasmussen. He was just such a joke. Like, he was like such a chump. And to me, he's like that internet personality person that's like, oh, I'm like YouTube famous. Like nobody fucking cares. Like, so yeah, he was my least favorite. And my favorite like bit of dialogue with him was when he said that he was very much Luke Skywalker, and Charlize Theron was like,
no,
you are certainly not Luke Skywalker. And then he was like, no, you're right, I'm Han Solo. And she was like, nice try, honey, but no, you're not him either. And then eventually she was like, you're Yoda. And he was like, yeah, I could be Yoda. He's the one that has all the wisdom. And she was like, no, Yoda is a puppet with someone else's hand up his ass. And oh my God, I about lost it laughing at that scene, because he's just like so eager to be like hot shit. And it's like, bro, that is no, like, no, you are the butt of all the jokes. Like, you need to understand that. So he was definitely my least favorite character.
He was incredibly irritating, and his fate was sealed from his very first scene.
Of course.
He was not seeing another another movie in the franchise.
Yeah.
My least favorite character has got to be Jacob with a K, the older version. So John Cena, honestly, I know why they cast John Cena. He's for some reason in Hollywood become popular.
Listen,
John
Cena is actually really funny. He didn't have a chance to be funny in this film. John Cena has amazing comedic timing.
Maybe in other films he's okay.
Yeah.
In this film, no. So firstly, let's rewind time to young Jacob with a K and young Dominic Toretto. What happened? So young Dominic Toretto was much taller than our Peaky Blinders young Jacob.
But he was a younger brother. He might have had a growth spurt.
And then fast forward to now, and bloody Vin Diesel is like a dwarf compared to John Cena. Like, honestly, I was just like, how did they not think this through? Because the characters are like at the point where they would have stopped growing, like in the past. That was just annoying. And,
not necessarily. My brother didn't outgrow me until he was like 21.
All right. Well, anyway, that was something that kind of irritated me. I couldn't really see it. But just in general, his entire presence, the whole, you said it earlier about Cypher's comment about the Nordic strain.
Yeah.
Just trying to clearly say, we're going to just somehow
trust us, guys. Just trust us. They're related.
Yeah. They've got this white guy. Like you say, honestly, they could have found someone else. I don't know. There's just so much. I just think, again, I know it's not an Oscar movie, but his acting is shit.
I want to know why they made him make those faces. Like, I actually have in my notes on my phone, like, what the fuck is wrong with John Cena's face? Like, why? There's so many scenes where he just has this sourpuss look on his face where he kind of looks like a frog. And I'm like, that is a forced face. Like, that's not like a resting face. What are you doing? Why are you making that face?
I don't know. There's so much about John Cena. Maybe he's good in other things. And I think there can be things like that where he's
fantastic in Cock Blockers. If anyone has not seen that film, holy shit. Cock Blockers is so funny. I laughed so hard that I needed my inhaler. Like, I was wheezing watching that film. It is hilarious.
Yeah, John Cena wasn't for me. But however, how it ended, John Cena's definitely coming back, 100%. And do you know what though? Like, I have to put my hands up and say I didn't know where it was going to go with John Cena, and not entirely. Like, I knew that he wouldn't be villain till the end. But I couldn't. But I thought that he might have just been. I still thought he might have been defeated at the end, but he obviously had a moment of redemption. And I knew from the moment they revealed that when John Cena's Jacob said to Vin Diesel's Dominic, something that he'd held on to all these years was a secret that their dad had made him promise to keep.
Yeah.
And the moment he revealed it, I was like, oh, this is it now. This is the way to turn this around, that it wasn't Jacob's fault. It was the dad's fault, and put that pressure on Jacob. Although Dom said, you should have still...
A good son would have said no.
Yeah. But then again, he was trying to be a good son by doing what his dad said, which there's arguments either way for it. He was trying to look after what his dad wanted, but equally Dom saying, you kind of should have been looking after the well-being of our dad. Not, our dad obviously wasn't making a right decision. So, but at that point, there was now a way forward to turn that relationship around where there hadn't been up until that point. So really, in some ways, it's making Jacob seem like he's a little bit of a martyr, really. He kind of sacrificed his relationship with Dom so that Dom would still always idolize his dad, for all these years. So it's a difficult one. But so John Cena eventually towards the end of the film, sort of in the last 10, 15 minutes, flips it around and helps save the day, which I think we all knew that was coming. I just didn't know entirely where it was coming. And obviously he's not sitting there at the end when they're all sitting there, they're not having the little family.
He is not invited to the barbecue.
But I bet you by next movie he is.
No, by 11. I think by the 11th film, when they wrap it all up, when they're finally done, then he'll be.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe by 11. Maybe 10 will be a bit awkward still, but 11, I'll be curious to see what happens with that if they do a family barbecue and bring everyone in, and talk about why in a minute. So, sort of get into the structure of the film and obviously the writing of the film. So, this is the first movie since Too Fast, Too Furious to be written by Chris Morgan. To me, I didn't really notice much of a difference in terms of how it was written. To be honest, I think the characters felt very similar and to what we've had before. I thought that they did a good job in terms of the writing, in terms of carrying this on and following on from the previous franchises. I didn't think the writing really took away anything, in all honesty. I thought they did a good job in carrying the franchise on. What do you think about the writing?
I think this goes back to Letty being my favorite character, but I think the way that they wrote her in this one, she had more heart and more sort of empathy than they've ever written for her before. Like the very opening scene where they come to the Tej and Roman and Ramsey come to the farm, and Letty and Dom tell little Brian to go hide while they take care of whatever. And then like when Dom is like, no, we don't owe Mr. Nobody anything. Like we don't work for him anymore. And Letty is just kind of like, what? And so after that, they, he's tucking in his son, and Letty is literally just like, peace out. Like I'm going to go help them. This is not who we are. Basically, she's implying that this quiet life, this is not the people that we know ourselves to be. But when she leaves, she never asked for permission. She never begged him to come with her. She never tried to convince him to come. She literally made this decision for herself. She said, this is not the life that I want, and I am going to go and help our friends. Bye. And I just thought that was like fucking fantastic, that she just, it's not that she didn't care, because it is very clear throughout the entire film that she loves Dom to the moon and back. That has never been questioned. But like, I just thought it was so powerful that she didn't like wait for him to allow her to do something. She decided that this was something that she wanted to do. She was going to go help their friends. If he wanted to come along, great. But basically, like, farm life is not what I signed up for, so I'm out. And then again, like when her and Mia are having ramen in Tokyo, and she's just like, because the whole plot point in the 5th movie is that she had lost her memories, and she couldn't remember who she was, yada yada yada. And she's like, just as I was starting to remember who I was, it all got taken away from me, and then we're on the run. And she makes a comment like, when they pulled up and we didn't know who they were, our first instinct was to hide. And she was like, but we never hide. Like, we never run and hide. That's not who we are. And I just thought that was that she's been so consistent throughout the films, but independent while also being part of a group. Like, she's still very independent minded. And as much as she loves Dom, she's very like adamant in her, no, this is not who I am. This is not what I want to do. This is not the life that I want for myself. And so I am going to go out and make that happen. Now, just because like it might not be doing like above board shit, but I'm going to go out there and do it. So I loved the way that Letty was written in this film. And as far as like the rest of everything else, I mean, it's very on par with the rest of the franchise to me, at least the later films in the franchise.
Yeah, this film is definitely on par with the last, three films. Really, it's obviously not. It had 2 to 8 not have happened, and we went from 1 to this. It clearly would be like, what on earth
what the fuck is happening? Yeah,
it'd be like the Riddick thing that we talked about. So, and I think in terms of structure and writing and all of that together, I think it was done very well. There was a lot to cover. There was many scenes. There was, at points we had, so kind of the team got together very early to go and save Mr. Nobody if possible, etc. And then they kind of obviously had a few meetings, etc. And then they kind of all went their separate ways. Dom went off to London, and Letty and Mia went off to Tokyo, and all went all different places, and kind of then met up again, which I thought was pretty cool. The way he did, I think they did a good job of managing such quite a large cast.
Yeah,
even the villains were broken down. There was sort of 3 villains. You like you say, you had your diplomat's son, you had Jacob.
And Cypher.
Yeah, sorry. And so you had those 3, and all different times. They were kind of, I probably would say John Cena took up most of the screen time in terms of villainy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so did you in the movie have a particularly like good favorite scene, one that you enjoyed?
Favorite scene. Honestly, I think that scene at the beginning that I just described with Letty, where it was very low action, low dialogue, just like, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm leaving. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'll see you when I'm back.
It's just all looks, isn't it? Like,
like I just,
if looks could kill, basically.
Yeah, like that scene just really stuck with me. So I'd probably pick that one as my favorite.
Yeah, my favorite scene is the Letty scene as well, but it was Letty and Mia.
Yeah.
So when they went off to Tokyo, and I sort of actually read about this. So it's the first scene the 2 characters have ever had together in 20 years. So they've been in a room with other people, but they've never had scenes where it's just the 2 of them. And I thought for finally after 20 years, I thought to have a scene like that, because also with Georgiana Brewster, she had fight scenes which she'd never had before, and had to be trained to do these fight scenes. So although she'd done sort of racing scenes on her own before, like where she'd been in the driver's seat, etc., she'd never really had hand-to-hand combat. But to see the 2 of them sort of sitting down and eating together, doing a bit of investigating together, and sort of a bit of a catch up and that kind of thing, I just thought it's actually nice that we're having a scene. They talk about that. I forgot the name of it. That's something test or whatever it is, where you test a film to see
Bechdel test.
Yeah. That test about the sort of the male influence in those films.
Yeah.
And where basically, I think it fails if it's a woman and a woman together, but they're talking about a man.
Yeah.
They weren't even sort of doing that. They were kind of, just basically like chilling out in Tokyo. Although they weren't looking for harm per se, because they obviously didn't know harm was alive. But they were investigating a postcard that he left. So I didn't really deem that as talking about a man, because they were investigating a postcode that they thought he was dead. But I sort of got a little thing here of a quote that Georgiana said. So I thought this was actually a really good quote, so I'm just going to read it out quickly. It's sort of unbelievable that in the last 20 years we've never had a scene together. She said it was really fun to explore that, and I hope that we get to explore that further. I love working with Michelle. She's always such a great example to me, because she's always been fearless, outspoken, and she's always spoken her truth. I can't say the same with me. I think I've always been the follower instead of the leader. She's a trailblazer, and I think what people are doing now, she's been doing since the very beginning. So she's basically saying she's already been setting the example of what basically she's always stayed true to herself, she's saying. And I think actually Georgiana's really blowing Michelle's trumpet there, and I just think it's amazing that these 2 strong female leads, from the original movie. It's crazy to think that the first time they've actually had a scene together on their own. I get that there's been reasons for that Georgiana's character had to be written out because of Paul's death, and then also Letty also got written out for a bit because of potentially getting killed off and then getting brought back and stuff like that. I don't see any reason why it couldn't have happened in the first film, but it's nice to see that by the time we get to 9 that these two characters shared a scene together. And I thought actually it was really important that we've had that, and it was actually a fairly good scene as well. I loved the hand fighting. I was like,
oh yeah, and a great addition to that scene is Anna Sawai, which
Yeah.
I have loved her since Ninja Assassin, which came out in 2009. And I talk about Ninja Assassin all the time, and people always make fun of me because there's a K-pop star that's in the lead. Anyway, Ninja Assassin is fan-fucking-tastic. If you are into fight films that like pretend to have a plot, but also have really awesome like fight choreography, Ninja Assassin is perfect. It is a perfect film for that. So I watch it every chance I get. Anyway, so when she came on screen, I was like, "Oh my god, Ninja Assassin!" So I loved the addition of her as like a trifecta of badass women fighting off all of these thugs in Han's old apartment.
Is there anything that you would have cut from this film or changed?
John
Cena?
No, I'd leave Cena. Honestly, and this again goes back to my personal bias, but I'm cutting the Tokyo Drift guys. Like I'm cutting that entire Germany scene.
Do you know what I didn't like was about Lucius Black? His character in this was so different to the Tokyo Drift. Like that annoyed me. Like he kind of was made like a joke character in this film. Like he becomes some weird sort of science geek. Like he was not that in the film he was in. Like you haven't seen it, but like he thought he was like a bit of a playboy. Like he has this race with this wealthy kid before he gets shipped off to Tokyo, where he's trying to win, basically he's trying to win some blonde girl, whatever, and it all goes badly and he ends up rolling his car, whatever, and he just thinks he's a boy. Like, and then to see him in this movie, I'm just like, he's like turned into some sort of farmer scientist or something or other. Like, I'm confused.
Well, but they made fun of him because the other guy was the rocket scientist.
But he came out with the remote control thing. Like,
so he's the mechanic and the other guy was the scientist. I still don't know what role Bow Wow plays, or excuse me, Shad Moss. So yeah, no, I would have ditched those guys completely. But I mean, I guess like if you ditch that whole sequence, then you have to ditch the whole rocket car thing, which.
Well, you needed that. That was the setup.
Yeah, that's a setup for that. But
yeah. But then again, if they cut that bit out, it kind of falls into what I would have cut out, which is the entire space scene. Honestly, I would have cut that out 100%. So we could cut out your Germany scene. We could cut out the space scene. Like, honestly, I'll be honest. I tried to not watch too many trailers of this film. I did catch bits here and there, and I
never saw a single trailer.
Well, I saw a few here and there, but or bits of ones or whatever. But I tried to not really watch them too much. But anyway, I'd heard for ages that they were potentially
they're going to space.
And I really kept thinking, I really hope that's a joke. I know that these films are over the top, but there was just no need to send them to space. There was no need. Now, my only thing about it would be, throughout the film, they've been going along the lines of that Roman believed he was invincible, that he couldn't die. And they did this about, I know they did it in like
5 times.
Was it 5 times they did it?
Yes.
They did it loads. And in the end, I thought to myself, they're doing this deliberately. They're setting it up so they can kill him off. They're bringing it and I thought, this is where they're going with this. I thought, this is what you do. You kind of build it up, get it in the audience's head. For some reason or other, he ain't going to die. He's untouchable, blah, blah, blah. And I thought they're setting it up for his death. So when he's in space and he's like, look, we've got another choice but to ram that satellite. And I was like, this is it. They're going to kill. I actually thought they're going to kill him off. I was like 100%. I was like, I don't know if Ted is going to get going to die. Like, but I thought somehow Roman's not going to make it out of this. And when he did, I was like, no. I was like, you've literally spent the entire movie telling us about how he's invincible. He doesn't die from anything. You know, he's got jacket that's got about 1 million bullet holes on it, but nope, he's all right. You know, right at the very beginning when they went to the site when nobody crashed, he gets out. He literally bullets are flying everywhere. He must have had some sort of shield around him, invisible shield. Literally, like bullets are like, you know, they're kind of hitting him and bouncing off. You know, it's like, and so when he's like, right, we're going to have to drive into the satellite. I was like, wow, they're going to actually kill Roman off. I actually thought that's what's going to happen. Genuinely thought they're going to kill Roman off. And then Roman survived. So I was like, oh, you literally spent the entire
sound
film.
so disappointed.
Well, no, only because to me, I felt like they had built up the entire film around his death, and then it doesn't happen. So I was like, okay, why have you been telling us the whole film that he's invincible, and then you're not taking that away from us? That's what everybody else would do.
Yeah.
Like, so, and then he turns out he is invincible. He can bloody survive driving a car through a satellite, and it blows up
In
but
space.
yet somehow they get out of their thingy, their little costume thing,
And then they hop on the International Space Station.
Yeah, and then
As
they
you do.
somehow have made it from a crash site outside. I mean, have you seen the film Gravity with Sandra Bullock?
Yep.
There's no way they just rolled over to the International Space Station.
I have thoughts. I have so many thoughts about that entire space sequence. Like, I have friends that train astronauts at NASA. Like that whole sequence, I was like, first of all, with those makeshift suits, like y'all would have passed out before you got to orbit just from the G-force of trying to get that fucking rocket.
They were fine.
Through
I know.
there.
I thought that as well. I thought that they would have been unconscious.
Yeah, you would have literally been unconscious. Because you've never trained in G-force in the first place. That whole.
They might have been asleep for a good half an hour.
I get it. I get it. Like everything is over the top. Like don't read too much into it.
I know.
It fit with the plot that they were going with. Yes, it did. But like taking that out of context, it was completely ridiculous.
I think
we had lost that part, and if they had just waited for the satellite upload to happen and then like launched a missile at the satellite, that probably would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, something like that. I think to be honest, the trouble is with these films is that every movie they're trying to up themselves.
Yeah.
So then they probably, when they were like, right, okay, what are we going to do to top Fast 8? Right, I know. We're going to send them to space. I'm just really concerned about Fast 11. Like,
we're going to Mars.
Yep.
We're going to Mars.
They're gonna race on the moon
Hell
or the Mars
yeah.
or something
Oh
like
man,
that.
can you imagine racing on the moon with that low gravity? Hell yeah. Sidetrack. Like, what of the entire 20 years of films, do you have a favorite like sequence, like action sequence, action set piece from any of the films?
You know, I actually have to say I love the scene with The Rock and Vin Diesel when they're where are they? Is it the Dominican Republic? Where is it? Where are they? Is it Brazil? It's Brazil, isn't it? Like they're running on top of the houses.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I thought that was pretty good. That scene when they're like where The Rock is on the side of the law, and at this point they're criminals still on the run.
Yeah.
The other scene I loved was, I think it was the end of Fast 4, where Vin Diesel's on the bus and like Georgiana Brewster, Paul Walker, and all that, their cars all circle the prison bus, and that's how the film ends. And what I love is like the next film starts literally like with that taking down that bus. I love that. That's probably, in terms of cut street races, was like one of my favorites. What about you?
Actually, going back to Brazil, my favorite sequence in all of the films is when they are driving through the streets with the fucking safe between the two cars. Yes, that is
a good scene too.
Oh my god, I love it so much. It's like so ridiculous and so over the top. And the only thing that came close to that scene for me was the magnet cars in this film. Surprisingly, like I loved when they turned those magnets to the negative polarity and all the other cars just like bounced off of them. That sequence was really cool. So the driving through the streets with the safe in the 5th movie, and then the magnet cars in this movie, got to be my two tops.
So obviously production on this movie was obviously high. Like, you know, there's no getting away from that. They spent loads of money on this and CGI.
It's like a $300 million movie.
And they filmed in multiple locations: Los Angeles, Edinburgh, London, Thailand, just to name a few others. You know, Phuket, Georgia, like, you know, there was just everywhere. Like, I mean, where weren't they when they made this film?
Right.
My favorite place that they filmed the location was Edinburgh, though. Just seeing, you don't often see like anything in Edinburgh. Like, I mean, I know Scottish people right now walk around like, yes, you do. No, but what I mean is, you don't. It's the same. I always say the same thing though about like, in general, like any kind of big blockbuster film. The UK doesn't
when
really
when Helen Mirren was driving through the streets of London, I was like, oh, I bet Mark loved this scene.
I wasn't overly keen on it. I just felt that she didn't need to necessarily be in the movie.
Well, of course not. But I love the banter between her and Vin Diesel. I love the way that they talk to each other, and they're like, it's almost like a mother-son kind of chemistry.
You're my favorite American.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, my favorite locations. I was actually I thought it was really cool about the sort of the varied locations. But
I actually really kind of love the jungles in Mexico.
Yeah, like there was, you know, it was just so nice to see it just everywhere. Like just you know, it was a really cool film to see, not just set in one place.
But again, that's like you said at the beginning, that's why you go to the movies to see stuff like this, to see these exotic locations that 90% of the people watching are never ever going to see for themselves. Like, that's what this kind of stuff is made for. Big sweeping landscapes, big explosions, all that stuff.
I always say that to you about New York, because I love New York. Well, obviously, I live in the UK, so I can go to. I've been to New York twice in my life. I'm dead sure I'll go there again. I love New York, but yeah, like whenever there's anything with New York in it, I love it. Like, New York's like a character in itself. So, I don't think they've ever done anything in New York, actually. So, from memory,
no, because the original setting is LA.
Yeah, no, but I mean, obviously they go to lots of other places now. But what do you think about how the movie ended?
I mean, it was to be expected. Only there's very few people that stay villains by the time the movie is over with, and Charlize Theron is so far one of the only ones that actually has been a villain throughout multiple films. Also, I just have to say on Charlize Theron, like, the woman is amazing. Like, she made that Three Stooges bowl haircut look fantastic, and that takes I have no idea how you can even do that. But I feel like they had to have filmed this right before they filmed Old Guard, since this was a year behind. So she has a very similar cut to what she had in Old Guard. But she's great. I would love it if she became like the ultimate big bad for the franchise, because
that's what I thought.
I think she's ruthless. I think she's very calculating. She's smarmy, but she's also charming. She's really a perfect villain, and she's the perfect foil for these kinds of characters, because she's so far outside of the box that it makes sense for this ragtag team of outside of the box people to be pit against her.
So so like you, I thought it was inevitable that we were going to have Jacob with a K switch into the side of the light. I think though that it was good that he didn't end up at the barbecue at the end of the film.
Yeah, no, it's too soon.
I think that would have been going too far. He kind of drove off and did his own thing.
Yeah.
But when he was driving off though, like not giving an S, like he does double back and he comes and saves the day with his brother, and I thought that was pretty cool. But the bit I thought was really cool was when Cypher, we believe, is in a like some sort of jet plane thing, fighting Dom, and then he manages to flip some truck or something, and then it goes obviously it flings up into the air to hit the jet, and then you hear her go like, oh shit, or whatever, and then suddenly after the explosion she gets out of some
simulator,
and I was like, will this woman just not die?
Nope, she ain't going nowhere.
But I did think that was a cool twist. I did like that. I thought that was a cool twist. I thought I didn't see it coming that she'd be in a simulator.
Yeah.
So I was pretty pleased with that. But like you say, I was going to talk about this in a minute. But in terms of what's next for these films, I actually, because we know we've got two more. We've got 10 and 11. Yeah. I'm actually thinking that she is going to be movie 11's takedown for them.
She has to be.
She is going to be the boss.
It used to be like Deckard Shaw, right? Like he was the first one that was kind of like, oh, you're bad in more than one film. But then even he kind of came around. So I don't think that she's going to get that treatment, and rightfully so. I don't think that I mean, I don't think you can give every villain that treatment because every villain doesn't have the same motivation. And she seems like the type of villain that is not swayed by family, that's not swayed by any kind of intangible thing. Like she's very driven, like very results driven. Um, but that's what makes her so great. And I love it because a lot of times you don't get to see women take on a villain role that is that sort of overbearing and sinister, because a lot of the times women are villains because they've been slighted in romance or they have lost a child, or it is always something related to family that has been lost. Whereas with her character, it literally could have been written for a man and they just cast her in it instead. And that's what I love so much about Cypher is that like in the film that she originated in, like she literally shot a woman that had just had a baby. Like, you know what I mean? Like she just didn't give a shit. And that's what makes, oh man, I love villains. Villains are the best. I almost love the villains more than the heroes, but she's such a good bad guy. So I'm excited to see where they go with her. Because I also feel like this is definitely not the end for Mr. Nobody. There was nobody to be found in that plane crash. So Mr. Nobody is definitely making a comeback.
So that's obviously going to be probably a follow-up as well into sequel territory. Probably just quickly summarize this a little bit more, but Brian obviously is hanging over this franchise still.
Of course.
And I thought, like, because we've kind of not had him or Georgiana Brewster's character, Mia in the last couple of films, I didn't think we'd see her back again. So bringing her back, they obviously just said that, you know, Brian's looking after all the kids, etc.
Yes, he's the babysitter.
Yeah. And let's be honest, there's no way, like there's no way Paul Walker,
right?
His character Brian was sitting on the side. Brian would never have done that. Like 100%, Brian would never have done that. I know we just have to take a bit of poetic license here because we can't get Brian.
Right.
But I did think it was a nice touch that they said Brian's on the way, and then you see a car driving and put into the drop.
And of course, it was a foreign car when everybody else was driving, like that. Him in that Subaru. So.
Yeah. So I thought that was a nice touch to have that in there. But what do you think about the mid-credits scene though? Like with Jason Statham, I thought it was pretty cool that he wasn't in the whole film and they just had him in it for like a moment.
Well, I'm still interested. Like they explained away faking Han's death, but to their credit, they did not explain why Deckard Shaw killed Han, other than he was just trying to get back at Dom or something like that. So, like, is there really a beef between Han and Deckard, or like what's the real deal? So I'm interested to see what the story is behind that. But I mean, I really do like Jason Statham, so if he kind of comes back, then I'm fine with that.
You know, I actually have to say, like, I love The Rock and I love Jason Statham, and it's been good to have them in the last few films. But I actually liked them not being in this film, and not because I don't like them, but there was such a big cast, and The Rock and Jason Statham are big actors.
Right.
Like they would have wanted as much screen time as Dom, and probably Dom had the most screen time, I don't know, but like they would have wanted a good chunk because they are big actors, they're big name actors, and they would have wanted to negotiate that as part of their contract to have as much screen time probably as Dom. And I actually think having that taken out was actually really important to this movie.
I agree.
And I love them in Hobbs and Shaw, and I hope that continues with the little mid credit sequence though, bringing Jason Statham back into it though. Is he going to come back into the main franchise? I mean, obviously we don't know if The Rock and Jason Statham will come back for Fast 11. I'm presuming that Jason Statham will be in the second one though, even if it's just sort of minimally. But I'd love to know what Han's going to say. Is he showing up there to kick his ass? Like, you know?
I don't think so.
Or is it going to be? Is it? Like, is it going to be?
Long time no see. Like,
that's what I was literally about to say. I bet you any money the whole time Jason Statham deliberately pretended to kill him off. It was a setup.
Yeah.
Because that will make, because it was this whole justice for Han thing. Is it going to be that actually Jason Statham's character was actually part of Mr. Nobody's plot, and that's why he went and did it? Yeah, I bet you that's what it is. Like, and then he shows up, he probably like shakes his hand, man. Like, yeah, like you say, long time no see, man. You're gonna let us in for a beer. So
before we wrap it up, though, I want to ask you about flashbacks, because flashbacks has been a theme that we've been talking about since April with a lot of our podcasts. So when this movie opens, it opens in the past, and at first I was like, where are we? And then you kind of get like the backstory of Dom and Jacob and their father and racing on the tracks. And I actually really, really enjoyed the flashbacks in this film, because I don't think that it added anything to the characters. And I don't think that they were really giving us more information other than like how their father actually died. But like, I don't think they were giving us information that we didn't already have. So it didn't feel like cheating to me. And instead it felt more like an homage. Like, this is, we're doing this for you guys, basically. Like, this is just fan service. Because like, as soon as they flash back and I realized what we were looking at, I was like, well, I know that their dad dies. Well, that the dad dies. And then I know that Vin Diesel beat the shit out of the guy with a wrench. So like, I know what plays out here, but how do we get here? So I really love that they literally didn't change any of the story. They just added new bits to the original backstory. But I really enjoyed the flashbacks. And I think that had a lot to do with the actor that was playing young Vin Diesel. I thought he was just really great, Vinny Bennett.
So my thoughts on this, actually, like say, the first flashback when it happened, I assumed that was it for the film. But I did recognize obviously the dad, and I've seen him in a few things, but it was more young Jacob, who I'm a lot more familiar with, like I say, from Peaky Blinders and stuff like that. I thought they're quite big. I thought he's quite a big I did recognize him. I knew he was on TV. I couldn't think from where, but he's quite a big TV actor. And I thought he's come over for one scene. I thought, okay, maybe this is what he's just hoping for his big break. But then actually we kept jumping back in time and fleshing that more out. And I started thinking was, if they can give John Cena a TV series on HBO Max where he's playing Peacemaker, unless, I mean, I've no idea if that's going to be interesting or not. What I actually started to go through my mind was, and this is in the day and age of TVs like WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, TV having spin-offs that then link back with movies. How cool would it be if actually, like, I don't know, HBO Max or someone did a Fast and the Furious prequel, like just a mini series, not an ongoing, but just a mini series where actually we got the same actors and kind of actually flesh that out more. Because I did enjoy those flashback scenes. I didn't necessarily think they were potentially the right actors who were similar in terms of Vin Diesel and John Cena, but I did enjoy it. And I thought, if they did, like, I don't know, no more than 6 episodes, sort of Fast and the Furious sort of origins, brought in a young Mia, though, I probably would watch that. Like, I'd be quite interested in that, because for me it would be bringing it back to basics again. Street races, no going to the moon and riding on a fucking penny farthing on the moon or whatever they want to do. But yeah, I think
I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens, because these guys are petty, and I love a good petty like throwdown. Young Rock, which obviously is produced by Dwayne Johnson. Young Rock is a really well received show. People seem to really love it. I would not at all be surprised if we get a Fast and Furious prequel series to kind of compete against, like, not that it's going to be on network like Young Rock is, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we had a series with these characters that goes back to basics.
Narrated by Vin Diesel or something like that.
Yes, of course.
Well, maybe narrated by John Cena and Vin Diesel. Well, would he want to share that? But I don't know. Anyway, so overall I enjoyed it. What would you rate it?
4. I give it a 4.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, a part of me is like, when I first looked at it, I was like, 5. But I probably would go with the 4, only because I didn't really like John Cena. I mean, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I probably would have a few beers with him. But
I think you'll change your opinion when you see Suicide Squad.
I know. I am hoping that he's good in that. I'm concerned about him, but we'll see. So, anyway, so next week's episode, we will be reviewing the first volume of Shadow Service from Vault Comics, and I look forward to reading it.
Yeah, it looks interesting. And don't forget, we did start a second podcast series where we tackle some of the most essential graphic novels of all time. Our 7th Late to the Party Book Club episode was They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, Justin Eisinger, and Steve Scott, with art by Harmony Becker. That episode dropped at the end of May. Our book club took the month of June off, but we are back at it in July. And our book of the month will be The Killing Joke.
You can also follow Geeks Unleashed everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We're there. MySpace, whatever it is.
Yeah, we're totally on FaceSpace. Totally.
Yeah, all of those.
FaceSpace in my book. You can find us there.
Yeah.
And you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts: Google, Podbean, Apple, Spotify. We are there too. So give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Thank you for listening to us break down Fast 9, and see you next week.
Bye.